Welcome back to our channel Make Poland Great Again. We bust fake news about Poland. With me in the Go Against the Tide TV studio are Marian Kowalski and Pastor Paweł Chojecki. Today we will talk about Lech Walesa, whether he is a hero or a traitor. I also recommend our previous episode about the government reshuffle in Poland, why the government was reshuffled and what the dismissal of its best minister, Defense Minister Antoni Macierewicz, means for Poland's strategic alliance with the US. We think it weakens this alliance. Today on our channel, we, Polish patriots, will respond to an article in the Wall Street Journal, slanderous to Poland, which was handed out at the World Economic Forum in Davos. The headline says, Poland's new nationalist rulers are erasing Lech Walesa from history. Let's begin with the fundamental question. Who is Lech Walesa? The Institute of National Remembrance has established that Lech Walesa was a communist secret agent from December 1970, codenamed Bolek. The surviving original documents include his pledge to work for the communist secret police, acknowledgement letters for receipt of money, and his denunciation reports. All these are in the personnel files of the secret agent codenamed Bolek, with genuine signatures of Lech Walesa. At around that time, in December 1970, Lech Walesa becomes one of the strike leaders in the Gdańsk shipyard, member of the strike committee, and later on, as we know, becomes the legendary Solidarity leader. We've known all that in Poland for years. Why doesn't the world know about it? People in the West typically aren't very conversant with Polish politics. And Lech Walesa has been publicized worldwide for more than 30 years. His name is a kind of Poland's export brand. Without regard to his actual political decisions as Poland's president, and no matter which political forces backed him.
Jakie obozy polityczne, a różne to były obozy polityczne, z nim wiązały nadzieję przez te lata.
And obviously, the fact that he won the Nobel Peace Prize plays a role. That was at the time when the United States was one of the few countries that opposed the imposition of martial law in Poland, meant to crush solidarity. At that time, many European governments and the Canadian government didn't bother to impose any sanctions on communist Poland. Only Ronald Reagan's United States cared. Personally, I was Lech Wałęsa's supporter until June 4th, 1992, when Wałęsa, as Polish president, toppled the first Polish anti-communist government of Jan Olszewski. As the reason why Lech Wałęsa orchestrated to overthrow, at night, the first anti-communist government was a government elected in a free and democratic election. In that government was also Antoni Macierewicz as interior minister. This was when the parliament authorized Minister Macierewicz to reveal the agents of communist secret police who were active in Polish politics at the time. Some MPs were involved, and it turned out Wałęsa himself was on the list of agents. That is, the President of Poland. Lech Wałęsa orchestrated the overthrow of the government because it revealed communist informants at Parliament's request. Another reason was that this government proposed that Poland should join NATO. The then Defense Minister Jan Parys, who proposed that Poland should join NATO, was earlier pushed out of the government.
intryg jeszcze nieco wcześniej, został jako pierwszy z tego rządu wyrzucony. Lech Wałęsa,
President Lech Walesa was against withdrawing Russian troops from Poland, and in the Russian bases he wanted some kind of extraterritorial Russian-controlled business enterprises. And that's not all. He had this idea that Russia should join NATO to form the so-called NATO II, with everybody in it, which would make NATO entirely pointless. These were the policies of President Lech Walesa. So this supposedly anti-communist leader pursued pro-communist policies. Well, to put it briefly, to say who Lech Walesa is, Poles today know that Lech Walesa is one big communist fraud. To use today's language, he is fake news. Poles realized it very early on, and I will give you Wałęsa's election results. He wins his first presidential election with overwhelming support. Everybody thinks he is the savior of Poland. This was in 1990. He won over 70% of the vote. And soon afterward, he toppled the anti-communist government, supported the left wing at home, and sided with Russia in international politics. After that, the Poles never trusted him again. He lost his next presidential election. And the political party he founded took only 6% of the vote in a general election. Below 6%. Below 6%. Poles realized Lech Walesa was a huge communist fraud. In 2000 he tries again. Lech Walesa runs for president and takes 1% of the vote. 1%. This shows those of you outside Poland that Poles realized some 20 years ago who Walesa really was. They realized Walesa betrayed the Polish cause, served communists and represented Russian interests in Poland.
Reprezentował tutaj interesy Rosji. A dlaczego ten człowiek był potrzebny komunistom?
Why did communists use him? Well, when Moscow lost the arms race with the United States under Ronald Reagan, communists realized they needed to get rebranded. And to succeed, they had to persuade the West that communism was gone, that communism was no more, and that there was a new Russia. So the Solidarity Movement revolution was actually provoked by the communists. And today we know they pulled the strings from behind the scenes and controlled the leader of that strike. Well, according to the Wall Street Journal, Walesa is the most famous Polish dissident. The revolution led by Mr. Walesa in 1989 opened the way to uniting most of Europe under liberal democracy, globalization, and the expanding European Union. Well, we know in Poland he was a communist secret police agent, but perhaps we can credit him with that through this freedom revolution. We got rid of communism and it was a bloodless revolution. Maybe we got rid of communism, but we didn't get rid of communists and their dominant position in the state and society. Walesa was a famous face, a kind of pop culture icon with his mustache and a pin of the Virgin Mary in his lapel, and with the Pope pen. He was like an advertising gadget. But the real decision makers were more important. For example, Leszek Balcerowicz, who carried out economic reforms when Lech Walesa was president. Leszek Balcerowicz was a communist economist in the 1970s. At the time when communism showed no clear signs of crisis in Poland, he worked with a panel of communist economists who anticipated the bankruptcy of the system. Until 1980, he was a communist economist, and in the summer of 1980, when the Solidarity strikes began, he immediately became economic advisor to the Unionists. Just like the communist criminal General Wojciech Jaruzelski was the last president of communist Poland and the first president of the so-called Free Poland over the entire 1980s, when the Solidarity movement began, and then there was martial law, and then communist ruled Poland couldn't recover. After Solidarity was crushed, they realized the system was bankrupt. So they devised a golden parachute for themselves. Leszek Balcerowicz was the economic mastermind of the plan, and Lech Wałęsa was the figurehead to mislead the men on the street in Poland and elsewhere. He got the Nobel Prize and was shown on communist TV. Back then there was just one communist TV channel, and I remember it once showed Lech Wałęsa coming out of a church, and some plainclothesmen were checking his ID card. They were building his legend. If I didn't see him on TV, I wouldn't know who he was, since I lived in Lublin, not in Gdańsk. We owe Lech Wałęsa that we don't have communism anymore, we have liberal democracy instead, and the transition was bloodless. That's what the West is saying. What would you say to that? Obviously, that's another lie that Poland got rid of communism. To see the difference, take communist Germany, the so-called GDR. After the collapse of the Brezhnev-era communism, to be succeeded by the new communism represented by Putin today, well, this communist German republic was merged with West Germany. And what happened there? A complete decommunization. All the people who perpetrated communist crimes or who collaborated with the Russian regime were removed from public roles. At universities, schools, the police, administration, political parties, and also courts. Judges are a good example. When that communist German republic was merged with West Germany, 80% of German judges were kicked out because they were communists. In Poland, not even one judge was fired for communism. And the judges who were communist criminals, who sentenced real patriots and opposition activists, to this day are either professionally active or are retired with pensions many times higher than what the average Pole gets.
Albo mają wysokie, wielokrotnie wyższe niż przeciętny Polak państwowe emerytury.
They are even in the Supreme Court today. That's right. So to say that the communists stopped ruling Poland is a lie, and we are now struggling with the legacy of Lech Wałęsa. He provided them with a smooth transition from the system called communism to what is now referred to as liberal democracy. But in reality, it's a system effectively controlled by communists or their children. Now, about Lech Wałęsa. Just to show you how much he suffered from communists, I'll give you just one example. When the communist criminal Jaruzelski introduced martial law in Poland, the opposition activists and patriots were arrested and put in jails called internment camps. Lech Wałęsa was also arrested, but soon afterward was transferred to a luxurious hotel for communist officials in the Polish mountains, in Arłamowo, where he spent 5 months. You will now see a slide showing how much he drank with his many visitors in that period. These are declassified secret police files which demonstrate how badly persecuted Lech Wałęsa was. Let me just read some items. 289 bottles of vodka, 239 bottles of champagne, 1,115 bottles of beer, 158 bottles of wine, and so on, and all that in 150 days. He was a bogus workers' leader, cooked up by communists, and we believed it, thanks to the Catholic Church. Well, Marian mentioned these gadgets. He had a pin of the Virgin Mary in his lapel, and a gigantic pen with the image of John Paul II. We thought he was the real leader of free Poles. Only later did we learn the truth. I first heard about Lech Wałęsa in 1980. When I started high school. One of our teachers showed us some newspaper article with Lech Wałęsa mentioned in it. This was how I learned about Lech Wałęsa.
I to nauczyciel nam o tym powiedział uczniom w klasie w komunistycznej szkole. Ale najciekawsze jest to,
what's interesting, when later on martial law was imposed, that teacher was appointed military commissar, which was above the principal.
ważniejszym od dyrektora, czyli był to komunistyczny prowokator.
Clearly, he was an agent provocateur. He peddled the fake anti-communist opposition leader. Let me just tell our viewers here that at the time when Lech Wałęsa was partying with his guests, drinking all the vodka, champagne and brandy, more than 100 people were killed by communists in Poland during martial law. Real patriots were being killed when he and his commie buddies were having their drinking spree in Arłamowo. The real Polish patriots were beaten and kept in terrible prison conditions. Over 100 people were killed. Let us remind that when Lech Wałęsa becomes a communist conspirator in 1970, during the December 1970 riots, communists kill 45 people and wound nearly 1,200. Indeed, it was a particularly disgraceful episode in his life. Our viewers are probably not aware of what communists did in 1970. Every 10 years or so, communists provoked riots, partly to let the people vent their frustrations and partly to induce leadership change. So in 1970, party boss Gomułka was about to be replaced with comrade Gierek, who was meant to be more pro-Western. Food price hikes provoked riots in Gdańsk and other cities in Poland. And what communists did was just heinous. The communist state media announced. The same media that promoted Lech Wałęsa. I'm talking now about 1970. He was promoted in 1980 and 1981 and so on. But in 1970, when Wałęsa became a secret police agent, according to the files revealed by the Polish government,
polski rząd przedstawił, wtedy
The communist media told the workers the riots were over and that they should go back to work in the shipyard the next morning.
Do pracy. I rzeczywiście robotnicy wsiedli
So the workers got on the commuter train to start work at 6 a.m.
I przyjechali na 6 rano do pracy. A w tym czasie
At the same time, the communist army deployed troops with machine guns by the shipyard's gate.
do bramy stoczni. I
And when
kiedy
the workers were getting off the commuter train, they opened fire from machine guns and
wtedy
tanks.
rozległy się strzały broni maszynowej. Do bezbronnych
Dozens of
ludzi
defenseless
strzelało
people were
wojsko
killed
z broni
and 1,000 or
maszynowej i
more
czołgów.
wounded.
Stąd właśnie te ofiary.
This was a
Kilkadziesiąt
massacre.
osób zabitych i 1000, a może i więcej rannych. To była masakra. I wtedy właśnie
Exactly
ten
that
człowiek
time,
w ramach
during that slaughter,
tej
this
zbrodni
man
komunistycznej
started to work
w tym momencie
for the
podpisywał,
communist
i
secret
to można
police.
zobaczyć jego zobowiązanie do
The
współpracy.
files have been
Podpisywał
made public.
współpracę z komunistyczną służbą bezpieczeństwa.
Lech Wałęsa now denies that he was an agent of the communist secret police, but in 2011, on a TV show hosted by Monika Olejnik, he was asked if he had worked for the secret police. He was asked if he had worked for the secret police, and he said that since everybody signed, he signed too, but never played for the other side. He just outsmarted communists this way. Would you believe him?
No, faktem jest to, że
We know Lech Wałęsa was paid for his work. He also received perks. He admitted it himself.
materialne korzyści z tej współpracy płynące, sam to mówi.
He asked for an apartment, and they gave him apartment. He received substantial amounts of money. He claimed he won the lottery. That's how he explained it to his wife. To win just once is rare, and to win again and again is virtually impossible. We can see Lech Wałęsa could no longer flatly deny his work for the communist secret police. He now says it was a kind of game, and he won that game. And indeed, as a private individual, he is the winner. But he was a planted false leader, and he is responsible for the fact that the US ally status of Poland isn't yet clear. When did the first American troops arrive in Poland? Last year, when the government with Antoni Macierewicz as defense minister was in power. Lech Wałęsa refers to him as his greatest enemy. He first pushed Antoni Macierewicz out of office in 1992. And now, a few weeks ago, he was very happy Antoni Macierewicz was dismissed again. Marian Kowalski just said Lech Wałęsa is the winner. He is wealthy and he is famous. Not in Poland, but unfortunately he is still a legend around the world. Did Poland benefit from Lech Wałęsa's success? No. Poland lost from it because no act of historical justice took place in Poland after communism, the way it was done in Hitlerite Germany at the Nuremberg trial. To a certain degree it cleansed Germany, not entirely of course, but the new generations of Germans grew up with the awareness that Hitlerism was genocide, a horrible crime. Major Hitlerite criminals were executed.
Na największych zbrodniarzach hitlerowskich. Jeśli chodzi o zbrodnie komunistyczne, były one daleko większe.
As for the communist crimes, which were far greater than the Hitlerite crimes, no communist criminal was sentenced to even one day in prison.
Nie został w Polsce skazany żadnym wyrokiem, żeby odsiedział przynajmniej dzień w więzieniu.
Not one top communist official paid for the sea of blood, for the backwardness of Poland.
Za morze krwi, za ofiary za cofnięcie cywilizacyjne Polski. To właśnie zawdzięczamy z
This was on the one hand thanks to Lech Wałęsa, who ensured safe passage for communists with no Nuremberg for them, and on the other hand thanks to the Catholic bishops who announced the policy of wiping the slate clean, that we should forgive communists because we are Christians. So the bishops told us their lies, and Lech Wałęsa told us his. I mentioned Leszek Balcerowicz, the economist, but there were also communist intelligence officers like Marian who spied in the United States in the 1970s, or Andrzej Olechowski, also involved in espionage. Marian Zacharski was one of the people in charge of the intelligence agency which replaced the Communist Secret Service. The man who spied for communists in the United States built the intelligence agency in the supposedly democratic Poland. Andrzej Olechowski, who also spied in the West, was later the founder of Civic Platform. He was Lech Wałęsa's close confidant. Wałęsa made him foreign minister and later finance minister. During Wałęsa's presidency, the people who had acted against the United States and the West came to power, and they were supposed to build a new democratic Poland. According to the Institute of National Remembrance, at least 24 people fell victim to Lech Wałęsa's denunciations. They were persecuted and bullied by communists. This counters the supposedly benign role of Lech Wałęsa. The role of this famous man was initially to eliminate competition, the real workers' leaders, any independence movement leaders, and then, when he came to power, his task was to promote the kind of people I've just mentioned. And then, when he came to power, his task was to promote the kind of people I've just mentioned. General Czesław Kiszczak and General Wojciech Jaruzelski, both of them communist criminals who were responsible for imposing martial law in Poland in 1981, did not spend even one day in jail in the so-called Free Poland. Let's recall that more than 100 people were killed during martial law. Paweł mentioned the conciliatory role of Catholic bishops, who made sure communists didn't get hurt in the process. The Round Table deal was struck, and it was the bishops who organized the negotiations. Selected activists were invited, with Lech Wałęsa at the top of the list. It's interesting why the bishops were so eager to come to an agreement with communists. They are usually portrayed as anti-communists, as the only anti-communist organization in communist Poland. The reason was that the Catholic Church is a hierarchical organization, and the head of the Catholic Church in Poland was Józef Glemp, once the assistant of Primate Wyszyński. Throughout the 1980s and into the 1990s, he pursued a policy of appeasement. He arranged the Round Table talks, and before that, Wałęsa's meetings with Wojciech Jaruzelski, the Russian viceroy in Poland. Why was Józef Glemp appointed Primate of Poland, head of the Church in Poland? Because Pope John Paul II appointed him. And why did that happen? Because Lech Wałęsa asked him to do so in a special letter he wrote to the Pope while he was in jail during martial law. There are many threads in the story, including the Catholic Church. We will show you some photos of the talk communists held with the so-called opposition leaders and Catholic bishops, first in the village of Magdalenka and later at the round table. Clearly, they loved their liquor.
Tam również alkohol leje się strumieniami. Pastor Paweł Chojecki.
Dlaczego społeczeństwa Zachodu nic
The reason why people in the West don't know about Wałęsa's treason and the faint fall of communism in Poland was that the media that now effectively controls the flow of English language news from Poland was founded at that hard-drinking round table. Let's show the editor-in-chief of Gazeta Wyborcza Daily. We can see the editor of Gazeta Wyborcza drinking with communist criminals, with Czesław Kiszczak. Adam Michnik later became the editor of the Daily, whose journalists now provide the West with the news from Poland. He won't tell you the truth about Wałęsa the agent, because as you can see in the pictures, the two were good drinking buddies. That's why the public opinion in the West is virtually cut off from the real news from Poland. What's more, the Catholic bishops, in other photos we can see them partying with them as well. They were behind the deal with the communists. Will they tell you the truth about the man they advertised as the super Catholic man of the moment?
Cały czas forowali jako głównego tutaj katolika, głównego opozycjonistę. Stąd zarówno ze strony Kościoła katolickiego na zachód.
So the lies about the Lech Wałęsa come from the Catholic Church as well as from the communist-designed media in Poland.
Tutaj w Polsce idzie na zachód głos kłamliwy, a nawet polskie przedstawicielstwa dyplomatyczne jeszcze 2 lata temu.
As recently as 2 years ago, even the Polish ambassador to the US peddled Lech Wałęsa as Polish patriot.
Właśnie Lecha Wałęsę jako polskiego patriotę. Także komuniści projektując
When communists designed today's Poland, they made sure that the Catholic leadership, journalists and also diplomats were involved in a conspiracy of silence about what really happened in Poland in 1981 and the real Lech Wałęsa.
Prawdziwej natury przemian w Polsce 1981 roku i na temat prawdziwej tożsamości i jego roli w historii Lecha Wałęsy.
Myślę, że jeszcze na temat
I think we'll come back to the round table and make a separate episode about it. Just now, the last question about Lech Wałęsa. I think we can agree that we don't have too many heroes who are famous all over the world. Perhaps we should leave Lech Wałęsa alone. Okay, he worked for communists, but at least he is globally recognizable.
No ale jednak jest rozpoznawalny w świecie. I dlaczego tak ważna jest
Why is it so important for us, Polish patriots, that the world should know the truth about Lech Wałęsa? Why do we need to break this convenient myth? I think all people deserve to know the truth, especially the people in the United States and in other countries who don't know too many details about Poland's history, or the region that has long been in the Russian or Soviet sphere of influence. The truth about those people and their careers. Lech Wałęsa was not chosen by the Polish people. He was created by the communist secret police, first as a union leader, then as opposition leader, and then he was promoted by the media. Without media backing, you stood no chance of winning elections. And there is another thing. Many politicians had to give up their careers because they got their reputations tarnished by scandals in their private lives or by some business issues. But with Lech Wałęsa, we have to realize that at the time when he was lionized as a union leader, he was by no means an exemplary husband and father of his many children. Quite the contrary. If we look at his children and grandchildren, who grew up in luxury, we see very clearly it's a dysfunctional family. Take his son, who is a European MP, or his daughter, who used to be a celebrity. His family was marred by suicide and sex scandals. His children caused traffic accidents with complete impunity. It's a dysfunctional and demoralized family, even though they lived a wealthy and privileged life. Can this man pose as the conscience of the nation? He couldn't even raise decent children. Why is it so important for Poland and its position in the world to tell the truth about Lech Wałęsa and debunk this false myth? Many people in Poland have been convinced that it's better not to shatter this legend, since the West thinks he was the leader of the Solidarity Freedom movement. We'd better leave it as it is. Even Donald Trump mentioned Lech Wałęsa in his speech in Poland. Unfortunately, he did. But if you watch it, you'll see he was booed for it. The Poles whistled and booed when Wałęsa the traitor was mentioned. It only shows what kind of fruit is born by hiding the truth. It is wrong to say, let's hide the truth for the sake of truth. It will never work. Jesus said that only the truth will set us free. He said, John 7:24, "Do not judge by appearances, but judge with right judgment." We have to judge with right judgment. We shouldn't be thinking about political consequences, but judge with right judgment. The truth should have been told the Poles back then. The truth should have been told the world. Today, what we can see is happening in Davos shows that the world's media is using the communist agent, codenamed Bolek, against Poland, because 20 or 30 years ago we didn't tell the world the truth about Wałęsa. There are also real dramas of real people. You mentioned his derailed family, but there are also real Polish leaders who did not collaborate with the communists, who built civic awareness, who built patriotic awareness. They fought against communism. One of them is the real strike leader in Gdańsk, Krzysztof Wyszkowski. Last year you could watch a dramatic scene when he was invited to a TV show and talked about yet another lawsuit he had just lost with Wałęsa. He lost it because he was telling the truth about Wałęsa. He showed plenty of evidence, but communist judges keep siding with Wałęsa. And then this real hero of Polish solidarity, Krzysztof Wyszkowski, asked with breaking voice, he is old and sick, "How many years more will I continue to be persecuted? I was persecuted in the communist era, and how many years more will they be dragging me through the courts and intimidating me with gigantic libel compensation claims for telling the truth in Poland?" It didn't happen 30 years ago. It took place last year, before millions of viewers on the largest TV channel in Poland. Thank you for watching us. Today we talked about Poland's fake anti-communist legend Lech Wałęsa, who was created by communists. Judge for yourselves. Please write your comments below. We are looking forward to your questions and suggestions for the topics you would like us to talk about on Make Poland Great Again channel. Thank you very much. With me in the studio were Marian Kowalski, thank you, and Pastor Paweł Chojecki. Thank you, see you soon. Watch our next episode. Please subscribe, share the link to this video with your friends. We are also on Twitter, Facebook and Instagram. Goodbye.
Dear viewers all over the world, this is Go Against the Tide TV channel, the voice of patriotic biblical Christians from Poland. We are a dynamically developing community of Polish patriots and Christians. We've been broadcasting since 2008 in Polish. For the last 2 years, we've been transmitting live with 30,000 viewers per day, and now we are starting a new TV channel for all those of you who don't speak Polish, but would like to know the truth about what is really going on in Poland. We will expose fake news about Poland. We will tell you who is who in our country, and we will work hard to make Poland great again. You probably never heard of these two men, but I'm sure they will very soon be frequent guests in your homes. Let me introduce them. Marian Kowalski, one of the most popular online political commentators in Poland. He is a fiercely anti-communist, patriotic conservative who ran for presidency in Poland in 2015. All his life, he has been fighting against political correctness. He now opposes the idea of New Silk Road, which could spell the domination of communist China over the entire world. And Paweł Chojecki, the most popular pastor in Poland, the founder and editor-in-chief of Go Against the Tide TV. He is well known for combining the message of the Bible with patriotism, politics and economy. A reformer and a politician, he is hated by those who hate the gospel of Jesus Christ. But he isn't bothered by that at all. These two are an explosive blend. This is the first project of this kind in Poland since the times of the Reformation in the 16th century. We want to put Christianity back into politics. Our motto is God, honor, fatherland. I need to add here that they both supported Donald Trump and believe in his victory, despite the fact that almost no one in Poland believed in Donald Trump's success. We believe that Donald Trump will make America great again. And with God's help, we aim to make Poland great again too. Let's get started.